Sorry, and now I've got my mic on. Before we get into the hearing, I'd like to have someone from council read the acknowledgement, please. Councillor Wayne.
Today, I acknowledge that the town of Bruderheim is located on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta. The town of Bruderheim honors the first peoples of this land. We recognize that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of Cree, Métis, Blackfoot, amongst other nations who have been here for thousands of years. Therefore, the town of Bruderheim has an inherent responsibility to foster healthier relationships with the First Peoples and furthers the calls of action as outlined by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. So we'll call this hearing to order. I'll follow the script that was provided. Thank you very much, Sherry. I am Carl Haupt, Mayor for the town of Bruderheim, and I'll be the chair of the public hearing. On behalf of the council of the town of Bruderheim, I would like to welcome you here today. I would like to take a moment to introduce all the other councillors in attendance today. Deputy Mayor Judy Schuler. Looks like Councillor George Campbell is absent. Councillor Ashley Carter, Councillor Len Filardo, Councillor Dana Jacobs, and Councillor Wayne Aleko. The secretary of the public hearing is Sherry Cote, who is the Director of Development and Legislative Services for the town of Bruderheim. Planning advice will be provided by Jane Daphne of Municipal Planning Services, who is the planner for the town of Bruderheim. All persons wishing to be heard at this public hearing will have the opportunity to do so. Persons shall be provided the opportunity to be heard in the order that the request to do so was received. We ask that persons wishing to speak at this public hearing who have not already provided notice of their intention to do so, please sign in on the sign-in sheet by the door. I think everybody's signed in, if I'm not mistaken. If you have a written submission that you have not already provided to administration, please hand it to Secretary Sherry Cote. Does anybody have a written submission? Okay. So the public hearing for proposed bylaw 02-2022 being a bylaw to amend the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw 33-2015 is now open at 7:02 p.m. The purpose of this hearing is for the council of the town of Bruderheim to hear testimony and take action relating to proposed amendment to the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw 33-2015, which will define 3 new uses: children's indoor play facility, microbrewery, and pet grooming facility in the land use bylaw. Establish a new land use district, the C3 mixed use district in the land use bylaw, and redistrict a portion of lot 1, block 1, plan 072-5539 from the R3 high density residential district to the C3 mixed use district on the town's land use bylaw map. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to be heard. So for the process of the hearing, only one person may speak at a time. This is a time for presentation of testimony. No debate is allowed. Please speak clearly and start by stating your name for the record. Comments must be specifically related to the matter being considered. The ground rules of the public hearing and the order of speaking will be: the secretary will speak first to introduce the bylaws. The planner will speak to outline facts and present her recommendation on the proposed bylaws. The secretary will read in any written submissions received. Members of the public who have signed up to speak will be given the opportunity to speak in the order they have signed up. Anyone else who has not yet signed up will be given the opportunity to speak. The planner will be given the opportunity to present closing remarks or address any of the issues presented. Councillors will be given the opportunity to ask questions. Council will then end the public hearing and consider the information received at the public hearing. Council will only consider matters raised at the public hearing. Only councillors may ask questions of speakers during the public hearing. If any persons wish to ask questions of a speaker, they must ask the council to ask the question on their behalf during the presentation. And council will only ask the question if it feels it wishes to have an answer in order to undertake its consideration. So the secretary will now introduce the bylaws. So Director Sherry.
Bylaw 02-2022 is a bylaw to amend the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw. Bylaw 02-2022 was given first reading on the 19th of January 2022 at the regular meeting of council. The public hearing was advertised by mailing a notice to adjacent property owner on 26th of January 2022 and advertised in the Lamont Meter on January the 26th, 2022, and again on February the 2nd, 2022, in accordance with the requirements in the Municipal Government Act.
Does council have any questions or points of clarification? Okay. The audience, I would ask Shane Gaston, for Municipal Planning Services to present a report on the proposed land use bylaw amendment. Jane is online with us.
I am. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to take you through sections of the planner's report, which I believe is included in your packages. The first section there that just talks about the proposed amendment, I won't go over that again because I believe that's already been read in for the record. So what I'll go over tonight for you is I'll provide a little bit of information about the background and then our assessment of the site suitability, and then I'll go through some of the statutory considerations. So in terms of background, the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw and the land use bylaw map were introduced by the developer. And the intention here, as we understand it, was that the proposed amendments should diversify the potential commercial uses within the subject site and provide for mixed use development within the town of Bruderheim. Currently, the town of Bruderheim's land use bylaw does not include a district like this that would enable this type of mixed use commercial residential development. The site is affected by the West Woodlands Outline Plan, and it was redistricted by bylaw 06/2018, so in 2018. The outline plan would have to be amended concurrently in order for council to approve the proposed amendment. I believe in your package we have a copy of what the revisions to the outline plan would be. That will come forward for council's consideration at the same time as consideration of second and third reading of the bylaw, in order to ensure that both are consistent. With the amendments that have also been proposed to the outline plan, the proposed amendment to the land use bylaw would be consistent. So those things have been adjusted accordingly. In terms of site suitability, the lands that are subject to the proposed amendment are adjacent to 52nd Ave on the north boundary, 51st Ave on the southern boundary. Sherry, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Absolutely.
If I can figure out how to do this. Okay, it will let me share a document, so I might have to do this one at a time. I just want to be able to pull up an ortho photo here so that I can identify for you what area we're looking at. So I'm going to do two different ones. I'll start with one that identifies the proposed amendment area. You should see a black and white drawing with a gray shaded area. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the gray shaded area, thank you, is the area that would be affected by the amendment. You can see it's adjacent to 52nd Avenue on the north and then Range Road 205 on the west side. 52nd Avenue isn't registered along the southern boundary of this area yet because these lands have yet to be subdivided. But the intention, if we look at the future land use concept in the outline plan, is that 51st Avenue would be extended and run along the southern boundary of the proposed amendment area. So I just want to show you as well here, if I can figure out how to do this, what the ortho photo looks like to give you an idea of where this is in relation to the existing development footprint within that area. So now you should see an ortho photo. You see an ortho photo?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I don't have one ortho photo that identifies the proposed amendment layered on top of it. But on this photo, can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. The proposed amendment doesn't go all the way up to where the existing development area is. So you can see lots on the south side here, 48, 49, 50, and 51. Then there's a little gap, and then the proposed amendment area would be to the north, and it follows the block that runs along the top part of the subject site all the way over to the Range Road. So there is a little bit of a gap here between the existing developed area and registered subdivided lots and where the subject site is located. In order for access to be developed or provided to this site, the access off of 52nd Avenue would have to be built. There isn't currently road access into the subject site. It would only be off of 52nd Avenue. And our understanding is that, if this is approved and as this area develops, the access off of 57th would have to be built, and that portion of 51st Avenue would also have to be developed in order to accommodate the existing or the proposed development. Okay, it gives you, it's a little bit easier to think about in the context of having an ortho photo there to look at it. So in relation to the site suitability, in addition to where it's located within the town, the lands are predominantly flat and mostly cleared. There are some treed areas within this proposed amendment. The site appears to be suitable for the proposed use, so mixed use commercial with some residential development. In terms of the statutory compliance, the proposed amendment was reviewed to ensure consistency with the town's municipal development plan. So that's bylaw 15/2013 as amended. In relation to the following provisions, which are included in the plan, specifically in relation to plan goals, and these are the three that would apply. The proposed amendment appears consistent. So the plan goals that apply here are to expand and diversify the town's economic base while providing a high quality living environment for residents, to encourage economic development and renewal by supporting new and existing economic assets within the community, including traditional and regional economic drivers, and to encourage growth of the town's economic development capacity by providing opportunities for commercial and industrial development. Now, in this area, we're not talking about industrial development, we're just talking about commercial development, just to be clear. The lands are identified currently in the residential area on map 2 in the town's municipal development plan. So that is the future land use map. In the residential area, the following objectives and policies would apply. Objective 5.2.1, the MDP states that one of the town's objectives is to ensure that there is an adequate supply of competitively priced commercial land to help realize the town of Bruderheim's commercial development potential. There are policies in this section to achieve this objective, and they encourage council to support commercial development in appropriate locations and to promote the town of Bruderheim as a local commercial and service center for residents, visitors, and industry. The proposed amendment and the development that would follow does appear to create opportunities for new commercial development and would support the policies under this section and also the objective. Objective 5.2.2 of the MDP is to distinguish between various commercial uses, including neighborhood commercial developments. The type of commercial developments that are proposed with this amendment and the district that's proposed was deliberately, I guess, customized in order to only include those types of uses that might be considered appropriate in close proximity to residential uses. So it's designed to specifically exclude large commercial developments, big box types of developments that would, I guess, come with them the potential for significant additional traffic that could be inappropriate in this particular location. So some of those things were discussed with the developer, and we went back and forth after they submitted their application to try and refine some of those uses. So we were only identifying uses that could be considered appropriate at a neighborhood scale. Policy 1 under this objective is to define neighborhood commercial developments as small neighborhood commercial developments as small retail outlets intended to provide goods or services to local residents. This fits within that category. And policy 2 notes that future resident or neighborhood commercial development may occur where specifically indicated in the town's land use bylaw within areas designated residential on the future development plan. So, and this is maybe a little bit confusing, the town has enabled some types of commercial development to occur within the areas that are identified as residential in your municipal development plan. So there isn't a conflict. It's just the way that it's designed, it's intended to only encourage or support those types of commercial developments that would be appropriate at a neighborhood scale. So that's the qualifier here. And that is how the developer has tried to propose this district to ensure that the types of commercial uses that have been proposed would be appropriate at a neighborhood scale. The third objective that is from the MDP that applies is 5.2.3, and it's to recognize emerging trends in retailing and commercial land uses, including the creation of mixed-use intensification nodes for future development areas, which is what this proposed district and amendment are intended to do. So there's two policies that would apply under this objective as well. Policy 1 states that mixed-use developments that provide for commercial and residential uses within the same building will be encouraged. So this is supported by the MDP. And then Policy 2 encourages the town to identify important development sites and opportunities that have mixed-use development potential and that would benefit the community. So that's, I guess, the question for council. Is this the correct location? And are the uses that are included in the proposed district ones that we believe would benefit the community? And from a planning perspective, we think that this is satisfied. The developer has identified this area and does believe that this is a good location to support mixed use development. So the proposed land use bylaw amendment encourages commercial development. It's consistent with 5.2.3. It's located on a site which is appropriate for development, and it's located on lands identified as future residential that allow for commercial development. Therefore, in our opinion, the proposal is consistent with the policies that are applicable to this type of a development in the town's municipal development plan. So it complies with your statutory plan. In relation to the outline plan, I noted that there would have to be some amendments to the outline plan in order to accommodate this. And that's because when the outline plan was originally developed, this entire strip of land was identified for high density residential development. So in the town, that's, I think, up to a 3-story apartment building. It did not provide for the types of commercial uses or mixed use development that's being proposed in this district. So the amendments to the outline plan would provide for those types of changes. As part of our process, we are required to notify agencies, which we did. Administration mail notified adjacent landowners on the 26th of January, and then they also provided notice to referral agencies on the 26th of January. Specifically, notice was provided to Lamont County, Strathcona County, and the railway, CNR. And that's because the railway runs along the southern boundary of the larger subdivision area. And we'd like to just make sure that they're informed of what's being proposed and what's going on and provided with the opportunity to comment. There was a written response received from CNR, and we've included that in the planner's report. Essentially, they didn't identify that they had any objections. They provided us with their standard referral comments that just is, I guess, intended to ensure that we know that there is an active rail line in that location, and it's a busy rail line in that location, and encourages us to provide that information to the developer or any future landowners within the 300-meter proximity of the railway right-of-way. We also received a call from Strathcona County and administration in our office. Kyle Miller, specifically in our office, had a phone meeting with them where they worked through some of the questions that they had, and they indicated that as essentially what they were doing was making sure that what's being proposed is consistent with what's in your approved intermunicipal development plan. And after the conversation that was had, they indicated that they had no objections to the proposal. So at time of writing this report, we had not received written comments to that effect from the county. We have now received those comments. So I guess that would be in addition to what's in the report. They did provide written comments that indicated the same. They didn't have any objections or concerns with the proposal. So of note, the proposed amendment could potentially decrease the amount of residential development within the 300 meters of CN's right-of-way. The comments from CN have also been shared with the applicants so that they're aware. They were aware before, but so they are aware. We also had a look at the IDP after the conversation with Strathcona County just to ensure that we hadn't missed anything, and we hadn't. In our opinion, as well as Strathcona County's opinion, the proposal is consistent with what's in the approved intermunicipal development plan. So I won't go through the public notification and advertising requirements and how they've been fulfilled. I think that Sherry's already covered those things. In our opinion, the process that's been undertaken so far is consistent with the requirements in the Municipal Government Act. So everything has been satisfied in that regard. I guess I'll conclude with our recommendation, which is that in our opinion, with the public hearing being held today, notification and public consultation requirements for this type of a process that are identified within the Act have been satisfied. And we recommend that Council, following the public hearing, and should no significant objections to the proposed bylaw be presented, consider passing a motion to approve the amendments to the outline plan and then give consideration to second and third reading. Generally, if there are a number of people in the audience, I can't see the audience, but if you do receive a number of presentations, either in support of or with concerns about what's being proposed, then we would revise our recommendation to recommend that you defer consideration of the amendments to the outline plan and consideration of second and third until a later meeting so that you have appropriate time to carefully consider what is brought up at the hearing. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate all that information. Does council have any questions or points of clarification they wish to ask of Jane? Deputy Mayor?
Hi, Jane. Couple questions. When I was looking at the layout of how you've done the planning, we have a second driveway there. They're moving that driveway down further, so it will be connected next to residential. So they're leaving a space, but they're moving the driveway down, or what are they doing with the existing driveway? I know it doesn't show up on that map. Well, it does.
It does, I think, on this one. So you can see right at the end of the stub of 51st Avenue, it looks like there is a road that connects up to 52nd Avenue. Where my mouse is there. So that was developed as a temporary emergency access egress. It is not intended to be a road. But because the road stubbed in that location, we wanted to make sure that there was another way in and out. So that was never intended to be the ultimate design. It's just there temporarily until, have to look at that, 57th Street is developed, and then that will go away.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions from council for Jane? Jane, I do have a question. Did the developer give any indication as to this change? Has he had inquiries and that's why he wants to build this type of a development, or did he reveal any of that kind of information?
The developers here, I'll answer from my understanding, and if I'm not right, can I ask Glenn to step in and set me straight? My understanding from our discussions is that he thinks that there is an opportunity here to market this land more successfully if we can change the types of uses that are possible within the district. So it makes it more marketable and easier to find somebody to come into the community to do these things. If there's commercial and residential opportunities in this location. Additionally, I think the developer has been in the community for a little while now. And one of the things that he's done just as his own due diligence is to try and identify what some of the shortcomings are in terms of soft services within the community. So what types of uses or developments should be identified within the municipality's land use bylaw and enabled in the land use bylaw that would provide a greater range of some of those soft services that makes a community have the types of businesses that are attractive for families. And that's why some of the new uses have been proposed too, is hoping to bring in some of those more soft services like the indoor playground that make the community more attractive for a young family. I don't know if I've covered all of it. Glenn, if I missed anything, leave it to you.
Thanks for that, Jane. Much appreciated. Any other questions from council? No. So then we can move on with public testimony and comment. So the next point is, are there any written materials that have been submitted?
Mr. Mayor, we just had the two submissions that Jane spoke of, the submission from CN, which she addressed in her planner's report, and a written email from County Strathcona, which she also addressed.
Okay, thank you. And there's no other written materials then. Okay. And I'll now call upon the persons signed up. All persons wishing to be heard at this public hearing will have the opportunity to do so. When it is your turn, the spokesperson, the chairperson, myself, will call your name. Please stand, move to the podium, state your name for the record, and provide your testimony. So is there anyone that would like to speak now that has signed up? Leave it paused for a moment just in case someone wants to speak to council. Here's your opportunity. It sounds like someone's just coming in the door, and I'm not sure if that person's going to want to. Did you want to sign in? And did you want to have anything to say at the hearing? Because now is your opportunity. Yeah, you hit just exactly the right time.
Jane, can you stop sharing your screen? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amanda Coburn. I just have a few questions, if that's okay. Anybody can answer. I guess I don't know how to do this. I've honestly never done this before. But one of the biggest questions I have is, has consideration been given to how this will impact property values in West Woodlands by having a mixed-use facility? I'm not too certain how that will either positively or negatively impact people who live there, especially people living right next to that area. Has anybody looked at that possibility?
Jane, are you able to answer the question? Were you able to hear it? Is Jane still online with us?
I am sorry, I just had to find the unmute. So I can only answer questions if they're through the chair, because this is not that kind of meeting. So if the chair or a member of council would like me to, I certainly can.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we don't do an economic analysis of that sort of thing. We didn't have any concerns about whether or not this would have a negative impact on the property values. I know that the developer who's been involved in other stages of development within this area and who does own the lands directly to the south, who he intends to market as residential development in the future, has no concerns about this decreasing the property value. So no evidence has been provided that would indicate that it would have a negative impact on the values of the existing or future residential properties within within West Woodlands.
Thank you. There's been mentions of potential businesses and mixed use and family oriented soft businesses, which is great. But are these businesses already under contract that will be moving in when the development is done, or is this essentially wishful thinking? Like my concern would be is having empty spaces left and nobody moving in.
I believe Jane had answered that question once already, but Jane, would you be able to answer that question, please?
Yeah, I don't know whether or not the developer has anyone under contract to build. It is an irrelevant planning consideration for us. For us, we just have to determine whether or not what they're proposing is consistent with the municipality's planning documents and the site is suitable for the proposed uses. So that isn't part of our discussions with the developer, or hasn't been in the past. If he's able to sell those lands to people who want to develop them for those uses, then I'm certain he will do that as quickly as he can. But I don't know with certainty. So that one's a difficult one for me to answer. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Why that area? Is it simply because he owns that land? I'm just wondering if having a children's play facility wouldn't make more sense to have in a more centralized area so that everybody has easy access to it. Maybe even it could put that kind of building next to the pharmacy and help to revitalize our main street.
I can answer that question. This developer doesn't own that land beside the pharmacy.
No.
The change in the bylaw will allow for someone to have the ability to put one there in the future. That's with this change in the bylaw.
Okay. All right, and one final question. Has anybody looked at the parking situation? I know the parking in that area has been a major bone of contention with many, many people living there. I know Sherry has talked to us several times, and with putting such a large 2 or 3 story building plus commercial traffic could potentially make it even a little bit nuttier. Has has consideration been given to that?
And Jane, would you be able to answer the question on parking in that area that's proposed?
You bet. Yeah, that is absolutely a valid planning consideration. And so we did have conversations with the developer about that. One of the amendments to the outline plan that's been proposed is to try to encourage any of those, if that gets subdivided into lots or however they ended up doing that, but for the commercial developments to provide on-site parking. So as development occurs in that area, they will have to provide off of the street parking opportunities to accommodate that. I think that's a very valid consideration.
Thank you very much. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you for your questions. Does anyone else have any questions at this time? Now is an opportunity to come forward.
I actually do. So I'd like to come, but
Please state your name.
Sandra Payne, I live on 45th Street. And we have a potential subdivision area behind our place, behind our street. I think you might be aware of it. So I just wonder whether ratepayers of existing areas for that type of development would find that their properties that they've paid tax at that level for years, how do they feel about somebody being able to, of being paid a lower tax rate and then change their zoning? Do you see where I'm getting, what I'm getting at? Like, are there other places in town that have that zoning that would be undermined by placing that zoning in this residential area?
I think that Legislative Services Director Sherry would be able to answer that question.
I can tell you right now that through our existing land use bylaw, we already have minor and major home occupations. So throughout our community, we have people that have somewhat similar types of businesses operating in their homes. For example, dog grooming is in some of the other locations within town. Daycares, those types of things are already within our land use bylaw. It's just that this developer is kind of looking at this particular subdivision that he's developing and looking at some more of those soft services that we're trying to put in the bylaw.
I see. So this is an additional subdivision area that we're opening up.
This is in addition to what we already have in our community, kind of an expansion.
So we know that our lagoons and everything are going to be able to accept whatever growth he brings to the village?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, the water has been a consideration. It's in the documents that the planners have looked at that. But if Jane wants to speak to that about the water.
I will try.
Thank you.
So when the outline plan was first proposed, in order to support the ultimate development within this area, the proponent had to provide the town with information about how it would also be serviced. And that included some information about the servicing that would run through the site as the lots were created and the roads were built. And it also included information for the town's engineer and public works department to review pertaining to what the impacts would be on, the off-site services. And there were lots of conversations with public works and the town's engineers and administration about what would need to be done and what would need to be improved both on the site and off of the site in order to accommodate this. And all of those things, as I understand it, and administration may be able to speak to this better than I, maybe your public works, but I understand that they did come to an agreement about how that would be done. And the developer is aware that there are some offsite improvements that he would be responsible for as these additional stages or phases of development come online. And that has nothing to do with this proposed amendment. I mean, that was what was approved in the outline plan when that was approved a few years back.
Thank you, Jane. I just wanted to mention for those that are standing by the door, there's more chairs in the back here. You don't have to stand if you don't want to. Is there anyone else with any questions that would like to speak? Please come forward.
Just a quick question. My name is Mila Martel, and I have voice issues, so bear with me. My question is if the developer also gets involved in improving the road, because there would be more traffic, and between the development and the 830 road, that part is not very good, will increment the traffic into the town, having apartments and having more houses there. I wonder if that section of the road will be improved as well.
Just to clarify, so your question is 52nd Avenue would be improved? Is that the?
Yeah, that's the main one, right?
Yeah.
That goes to the 830.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
part of the final part that goes to the 830 to avoid having lots of traffic into the town that might be better coming from the 830.
My understanding is that 52nd Avenue wouldn't have any major change from this. And Sherry from the legislative end has something to add.
So I would just kind of add that you're talking about Range Road 560, and that would be Strathcona County that looks after that.
Okay, but the developer doesn't get involved here because they are bringing more traffic and affecting the road, basically.
And so as we talked a little bit earlier before you were here, and we talked about definitely the whole issue of traffic and access is definitely being looked at.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions. Is there any other further questions? Yeah, please come forward.
Hi, Amanda Paris. I guess my question is primarily for town council is our foot traffic that comes towards West Woodlands. The sidewalk ends there at whatever street it is, 55 Street, which is sad because that's the one I live on. So the sidewalk kind of ends there. And if we're going to put in a commercial area down at the end of 52nd Ave, has the town considered maybe extending the sidewalk there to make it a safe place for people to walk, especially if we're going to be putting in facilities that are more akin to children? You know, the kids already have to cross 52nd Ave because they don't have a sidewalk on the north side of 52nd Ave to get them to the skate park. And so the kids are already having to cross back and forth. And now we're proposing putting in a commercial area and there's no way for the kids to walk there.
Would Jane be able to answer a question about sidewalks in the new development area?
Yeah, yes. I think there's two parts to that particular question. One of them relates to the existing development. So it's lands that are outside of what's being proposed. And I just want to make sure that we are keeping the separate things, because at the hearing, we're supposed to be talking about just what's going on in the proposed amendment. But when I answer that question, it will help with that other piece too. So that was something that we talked about with the developer, and the developer did make some adjustments as we had those conversations. And they are included on page 25 of the revised outline plan that council will be asked to consider approving by motion as you move through your process. In part 7.3 of the outline plan, it's been revised in order to provide sidewalk on both sides of the road adjacent to the amendment area. And that's because we want to encourage pedestrian traffic in this area, and we want people to be able to get to these soft services if and when they're developed right in the future. So yeah, that is an issue, and we talked about it, and I believe the developers responded by changing the design.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Does anyone else have any questions? Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Mike. I live on 56th Street. So I have two
Mike,
questions.
what is your last name, please?
Schmidt.
Okay.
I have two questions, sort of touching base back to the traffic area. Now, you guys are building a street off of 560 coming in, which is 52 Ave, right? I believe. Is it 52 off? And then 51 Ave you're extending. So now, have you looked at a traffic study of congestion in that area just because you're gonna have people coming off 560 plus coming off of 51 Ave, right?
Jane, has it been a consideration on traffic? I know that 57th Street won't be built right away, right?
Just going back, I'm sorry, I'm just flipping in my maps here. So 57th Street would have to be built in order to facilitate this stage of development. I want to try to clarify too that we are not talking about all of the undeveloped lands. This proposed amendment only applies to that strip that I showed when I put my screen up. And so when we were looking at the potential impacts from traffic, we were looking at it in relation to that proposed strip. The town has already approved the outline plan for West Woodlands, and that's been approved for a number of years. And the developer did do engineering studies at that time in order to address traffic at full build out. Now, when this was proposed, we took into consideration potential impacts associated with changing the use in this one part of that area from high density residential to mixed use. And it was determined at that time that, Dennis, you might have to help me with this, but it was determined at that time that there were no concerns with additional impacts from the proposed land use bylaw amendment to 52nd Avenue. So we weren't concerned about this changing what the plan was for the road network that's already identified in the outline plan. Strathcona also didn't indicate that it had any concerns with this change in terms of additional traffic or having any impacts on Range Road 205. So it was a pertinent consideration for sure. We thought about it, but we're only thinking about it in relation to this one piece, right? Because we're not here to discuss the entire undeveloped area. Council has already approved that outline plan.
Thank you, Jane. Would be an imposition if you were able to put on the screen, because we've had some folks join in after the information you presented. Would you be able to put on the screen the developed area or the proposed development area that we're talking about, and then folks can see where that is? Thank you.
Yep, you bet. So it's just this portion, and maybe it's beneficial too if I go back to the ortho photo, just to distinguish between the full area that's undeveloped right now versus what we're talking about with this amendment. Sorry about that scrolling up and down. That's kind of annoying. Let me just pull that up on my screen. I was messing around further down in the outline plan. There we go. That's not a good one. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second here so I can switch over.
Thank you, Jane.
And I guess in relation to some of the specifics about the engineering, the developer is an engineer. so any of those questions Glenn should answer. I, as the planner, am not qualified.
No, it's understandable. It's just like there's going to be a lot of traffic, especially coming off of 560. People, if there is the potential for a daycare there, you're going to have plant workers coming in off of 560 from the plant, people trying to get into these daycares to pick up their children. And we all know what people are like on 560. They're all in a race to get home. So I'm just thinking of people's safety, right? That one mom not thinking about, her child at that minute, and all of a sudden, oh no, I got to pick my kid up, right? She has to do, or say a guy, even a dad not thinking about their child, and all of a sudden they just say, oh, I got to turn here. Meanwhile, you got 10 cars coming behind you. Right, it may be a congestion area to look at in the future. So,
from my information, is 560 52nd Ave. Is that the same street?
Yeah, 560 continues on west of the town, and in town it's called 52nd Avenue.
Okay, so just because I think that is a relevant consideration too in our discussions with the developer, and this is why 57th Street would have to be built. We think that that's too busy a road for people to be parking on. We don't want to create a scenario where that would happen, or there's too many turns in and turns out of the development area onto 52nd Avenue. So those are conversations we did have with the developer, and that's why the road into the subdivision area has to be constructed. So access to those sites will be off of 51st Avenue, and we're not going to have those issues with people turning in and out into the development area from 52nd, which I agree, I think would be too busy and could create issues. Good points.
Okay. And my other question is there was a proposed green space there. Now with this development, does that affect that green space?
No, the MR remains. And the purpose of that MR always was to limit access onto 52nd Ave. So it's doing its job. It'll stay.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. Does anybody else have any questions? Please come forward.
Hi, Amanda Coburn again. What is the timeline on this project? Like when is it proposed to start?
That information wasn't provided. Again, it's one of those things that wasn't, we're just thinking about whether or not the proposal is consistent with the priorities identified in the town statutory planning documents and whether or not the site is suitable for the uses which are intended. The timeline wasn't a relevant consideration for us, so it wasn't something we even asked the developer.
Okay, and one final question on the drawing, I guess I'll just call it. It's a rather large space. What does the square footage of the building itself? Do we know that?
I don't believe it's intended to be a single building because it is a large space. It provides opportunities for multiple buildings in that location. So that would enable the developer to subdivide that if they so desired, or to lease or whatever arrangements worked to be able to get some development going in that particular location. But it wouldn't be one single building.
Okay, so no idea then on how many proposed apartments there would be?
We don't know. We know it at maximum density how many units could be there, but we don't, it's too early on for that level of detailed information to be provided. That'll come when they're, if this is approved by council and they do have a developer who's interested in doing it, then they'll have to apply for a development permit. And that's when we would get that level of detailed information. We get a site plan at that time that provides us with that information.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the questions. Jane, on that proposed development area, what would be the maximum number of residents that you would surmise might be in that area? Do you have that figure?
I do. So that is in the outline plan. I will just go to that so that I can answer that question for you. So the total, oh, maybe I don't. Glenn, do you, this might be a good Glenn one. I know that we adjusted it in the outline plan to identify what the impacts would be for the entire plan area, but I can't remember what it is for just the gray area. I might have to get back to you on that.
Yeah,
unless the developer remembers. Glenn, do you remember?
Hey, Jane. I don't quite remember offhand. I know we broke that up through the table in the outline plan. Maybe while this is going on, I'll try to dig it up. Like I know under this new district, we have the ability for like a 50% maximum site coverage. And I know that the new area that's being proposed under this mixed use is right around 2.7 acres. So it's not an overly super large area by any means. So basically the site coverage could be 50% of that. So we would say 1.3 acres or so of actual building.
And further to that, I apologize, Glenn. It is in the chart. It's on page 11 of the revised outline plan, and it's under the category mixed use. And the area of that gray hatched shape that I showed you on the other map, it is 1.13 hectares, and at full build out, the maximum number of units that would be possible are 42. And we looked at that in relation to what it is in the existing outline plan to see whether or not it results in an increase in density of residential uses, and it doesn't. It's about the same as what's allowed for, provided for today.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks, guys.
Does anyone else have any further questions? Does council have any questions for clarification on what was presented? Okay, thank you all for your testimony. At this time, does any counselor have any additional questions of our speaker or of the chief administrative officer or the planner? Okay, does everyone in attendance feel that they have had the opportunity to be fairly heard? If anyone does not feel they've had the opportunity to be fairly heard, please stand up and indicate that you would wish to speak.
Mayor Carl, it's
Yes, sir.
Glenn here. Yeah, apologies. I'm not sure if this is the time to kind of jump in just with a few thoughts or not.
I think it would be advantageous to hear what you have to say, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And good evening, everyone. Sorry I wasn't able to attend tonight. Yeah, just having some kind of like post-COVID issues over at the household here, so just trying to battle through that. But yeah, lots of really good discussion and questions and concerns tonight, and I'll do my best to maybe just address a few of them high level. Yeah, so I think, as I'd mentioned earlier, the total area that we're talking about right now tonight is roughly 2.7 acres. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, the main reasoning why we started this process 6 or 7 months ago was due to the amount of inquiries we were getting for neighborhood commercial services. So I honestly have had probably over 50 discussions with 50 different potential residents, whether they're from Fort Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Lamont, etc., that have expressed interest in being in West Woodlands. And I would say a good 2/3 of those, their main concern with town is the lack of amenities, which we find, and Jane could probably attest to this as well. That's a very common, challenge that smaller communities have. So that's really why we went down this path. We don't have any specific contracts in place or anything of that magnitude at this stage, because we're basically talking about bringing in a new zone, a new district that will allow for end users to express interest in coming to town. So yeah, at the end of the day, the main intention is to create a smaller neighborhood style type of commercial. I believe the block that we're talking about is roughly, it would be the same depth as those lots to the east. So I think it's about 130-foot depth lots. So this commercial would still have that same 130-foot depth. And again, that's minus any parking requirements that we would have on site as well. So if you can kind of picture that, it would be more of a block neighborhood style type of commercial as opposed to anything. I mean, it doesn't accommodate any kind of big box store major commercial by any means. Yeah, and at the end of the day, we've now been involved in the town for over 5 years, and I know there was a couple good questions and concerns about traffic increase and expected growth, etc. And to be totally honest, we've had zero growth in our neighborhood in 5 years. So again, this is really just to try to spark something that has sparked other communities when it comes to mixed use district. So that's kind of the main intention. So by no means do we have a bunch of huge plans for big apartments or a major demand by any means. It's really just to try to help create that demand. And yeah, at the end of the day, what we're trying to accomplish through this district is to create as much flexibility as possible for those end users. So we may ultimately be involved in the end use and the buildings and such, we may not. But again, this zoning tonight is trying to accommodate some flexibility to see some growth out there. So thanks Mayor Carl, and thanks Council. Yeah, and I'm open to any other questions that may come from Council as well.
Thanks for that information, Glenn. Does Council have any questions based on what Glenn just presented? Again, I'll ask if any person does not feel they've had the opportunity to be fairly heard, please stand to indicate that you wish to speak. Just wait a few moments just to make sure if anybody's feeling anxious but does want to speak, that please come forward. Okay, if there is no further testimony, I will close the public hearing at 7:55 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. So now we are closed of the public hearing and the regular meeting of council will begin. So we call this meeting to order at 7:55 p.m. And is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Nothing from administration, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you to those that came this evening. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, folks.
Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda from council. Deputy Mayor.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the motion to adopt the agenda? Okay, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion to adopt the agenda? And the motion's carried. We have a proclamation to read today. It's a Pink Shirt Day proclamation. And we'll read that now. Whereas the act of bullying, discrimination, harassment, and intimidation is a concern in our schools, workplaces, homes, and over the internet. And whereas communities are being encouraged to wear something pink to symbolize that we as a society will not tolerate bullying anywhere. And whereas Pink Shirt Day highlights our commitment to make our community safe and inclusive. And whereas Pink Shirt Day is an opportunity to actively promote kindness and respect. Therefore, I, Carl Hook, Mayor of the town of Bruderheim, hereby proclaim February 23rd, 2022, Pink Shirt Day in the town of Bruderheim. And I'll sign that document now, so I don't forget to have it done later. Thank you very much for putting up with listening to me reading the proclamation. So do we need a motion to accept the proclamation? Yep, so I'm looking for a motion to accept the proclamation as read. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Make a motion that we accept Pink Shirt Day proclamation.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council? Okay, and hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion to declare Pink Shirt Day? Hearing none, the motion's carried and we move on to number 6. So we're looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of the February 2nd meeting, and Councillor Wayne, you have your hand up.
I make a motion to adopt the minutes of February 2nd, 2022 regular council meeting.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the minutes? Everybody's had a chance to read them. No issues on the minutes. Okay, call for a vote then. Anyone opposed to the motion to adopt the minutes of February 2nd? Hearing none, the motion's carried. Moving on to council priorities, number 7.1, information requests. And we'll start with Councillor Ashley. Ashley, any information requests?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne. Do you want me to come back to you?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Lynn.
Nothing at this moment.
Thank you. Councillor Dana.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Can you tell us what's happening for Family Day?
Mr. Mayor, through Deputy Mayor, we are having a free skate and hot chocolate at the arena from 2 to 4 p.m. As well as we've partnered with the Ag Society to open the museum for tours. And there'll be free hot chocolate at the arena, as well as our canteen will be open, people to purchase meals as well there. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any other information requests? I have one information request. At the end of February here, Moravian Church of Canada is going to be taking over operations of the Bruderheim Community Church. And my concern is based on how the Moravian Church of Canada has looked after the old church on that property. I think it would be prudent for our town to, what's the word, interview or just have a discussion with the Canadian Moravian Church of Canada President Dave Jones to find out what their plan is for running that building. It's a substantial building in our community. It houses many, during non-COVID years, it houses many events, brownies, FCSS events from our community. And we're just wondering what the intention of the Moravian Church of Canada in running that building so that it doesn't become a derelict building in our community. And I was just wondering if we could inquire with those folks just to see what their game plan is.
Mr. Mayor, yes, we will.
Thank you very much. So moving on to program requests, we'll go in reverse order. Deputy Mayor, do you have a program request?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Councillor Dana,
Nothing for me.
Councillor Len,
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Wayne,
Just to invite everybody out to the arena, the minor sports, their teams will be doing playoffs the next little bit. So if there's games in Bruderheim, please come on out and cheer them on.
thank you for that, Councillor Wayne. Will they be posted on Facebook so folks know when they are?
BMSA Facebook page will have it. So just tune into there and they'll have games, whether in Bruderheim or Lamont, I'm guessing, on there. So
Great, thank you for that, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Ash.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, so we move on to the next order of business, 8.1, appointment of the Regional Assessment Review Board Chair. CAO Patty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to present council with an opportunity to appoint the chair for the Regional Assessment Review Board, that Lorraine McKay be appointed as chair of the Regional Assessment Review Board for the year 2022. During the map review, it was identified the town of Bruderheim did not have an assessment review board, and this was a requirement of the MGA bylaw 08/2019 established a regional assessment review board to authorize Strathcona County to oversee regional assessment review filings from Bruderheim residents. Part 3, Section 14 states, the councils of the partnering municipalities will jointly designate the chair for a term of up to 1 year. On August 18, 2021, the Regional Assessment Review Board agreement between the town of Bruderheim and Strathcona County was approved by council. Strategic plan areas, a community that is educated on responsibilities and limitations of council and administration, Regional Assessment Review Board agreement, Strathcona County and the town of Bruderheim. Other impacts, legal and legislative, section 454 and 455, Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, CM 26 as amended. The chair will be appointed to the Regional Assessment Review Board annually by council resolution as confirmed in the Regional Assessment Review Board agreement between the town of Bruderheim and Strathcona County. Administration will forward the resolution of council to Lane Darlin, coordinator boards, committees, and tribunals, legal and legislative services, Strathcona County. And we've attached the Regional Assessment Review Board agreement between Strathcona County and the town of Bruderheim. That's everything, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, CEO Pat. We're looking for a motion for appointment of the chair of the Regional Assessment Review Board, and Councillor Wayne.
Motion that Lorraine McKay be appointed as chair of the Regional Assessment Review Board for the year 2022.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council? Deputy Mayor Judy.
I had the opportunity to do a research on her and read her portfolio of what she's done. Quite an outstanding woman, for sure.
Yep, definitely. I think that would be doing our town a good service. Absolutely. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Okay, hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion to appoint Lorraine McKay as the chair of the Regional Assessment Review Board for the year 2022? Hearing none, the motion's carried, and we move on to 8.2, donation from Alberta Treasury Branch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to determine the donation from Alberta Treasury Branch to determine the economic development opportunity to utilize the $5,000 one-time contribution from Alberta Treasury Branch in support of an economic development opportunity for the town of Bruderheim. We're looking for council to make a recommendation that town council directs administration to utilize the $5,000 donation from Alberta Treasury Branch to purchase a parade float, or that town council direct administration to utilize the $5,000 donation from Alberta Treasury Branch for the mayor's supper event. Mayor Holk reached out to representatives of the Alberta Treasury Branch for a donation to the town of Bruderheim. On January 11, 2022, Mayor Holk received a letter from Alberta Treasury Branch confirming this one-time contribution to our community. Strategic plan areas, opportunity to promote a town of Bruderheim economic development initiative. Open and transparent governance, a community that is educated on responsibilities and limitation of council and administration. Summary, branch manager Brenda Kitzel-Salenko presented the check to Mayor Carl Hulk on February 2nd, 2022. Administration will prepare a letter to thank the Alberta Treasury Branch for their generous donation and share the information on social media. And we've attached the letter from Alberta Treasury Branch confirming the one-time donation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, CEO Patty. Looking for a motion from council, Councillor Len.
I make a motion that town council directs administration to utilize the $5,000 donation from the Alberta Treasury Branch for a parade float.
Thank you for that, Councillor Len. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Councillor Dana and then Deputy Mayor Judy.
So just a question, because it's saying that two, like, are we approving one and also approving the other, or
Just one of them.
just one? So we pick between the two, is what, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're, okay.
Correct. Yep. Deputy Mayor Judy. And then Councillor.
I know we need a float, although saying that, I'm not sure when the last time was that somebody took one of the vehicles and went to any of the parades. Pat Lee has been the only one going over the past few years because she was the one going and she ended up and they gave her cars and stuff like that to go and put our name on the side. A lot of us are busy during the summer with families and stuff, so we really haven't used a float. So personally, I would vote against this one.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wayne and then Councillor Len.
What or any, do we have anything for a float, like existing? Do we still have what we had in the past, or have we moved on from that?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, no, we've repurposed that float trailer.
So we're starting from scratch if we were to do a parade float?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, yes, and we actually, you know, it might not be a parade float. It might be something that goes in the back, slides in the back of a pickup. As Deputy Mayor stated, many times councillors go by themselves, we're finding over the last few years. And I don't know if everybody's seen the Village of Andrew has a really nifty duck that comes out of the toolbox and things, it's very easy for one person to, so we would look at options to bring to council, whether it be a pull trailer or something that slides in the back of a pickup. Of course, we would do something bigger for the town of Bruderheim, but this is more focused on going to other parades for sure.
Because I think, you know, in the past, sometimes we've just brought the truck there with and decorated the truck. I don't know if there's a need to really have a massive parade float. We have a truck that we can decorate, we can do things with, and makes it easier if there's one person that wants to go. So that'd just be my 2 bits.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Len.
Well, I have a bit of history with ATB over the years, and they're very, very strong on floats. They promoted floats many a times in parades many years ago. And this to me is a significance to our community. We have something we can look at for years to come. 5,000 for a party is not a good investment. 5,000 for a float is a good investment because it stays within the community for a long period of time. And whether we have a driver or not for the float, that's one other question, but we can always work on that. But the float to me is a must consider to a party. And a party is just a one-time spend. And there's no advantage to the community. And I think we'd be insulting the Alberta Treasury Branch because they designated money for the float anyways.
Thank you for that, Councillor Len. In the letter from ATB, I just wanted to point out that they do mention both options for the town, but Councillor Dana. And then
So
Councillor Wayne.
when we go from, like, if we had just like a parade here in town, I get like the truck and stuff and putting something on the truck and just throwing a little bit of candy, but do we still go from like town to town and represent our town? Like, who would cover the fuel on that? Or if we wanted to decorate a little bit more, add a few more decorations or something like that, like where would we get that money from to do that if we weren't going to do this? And then on a second thing, the last 2 years, parades have been canceled. They've been the drive-by parades and stuff like that. And I think of all years, I think that this year with COVID being possibly being lifted, I think this year would be the year to actually put and invest in a float and make that parade like the ultimate parade, since it's like it's community, right? The parade is community. I remember when I was younger, we were excited to go to the parade. So, and we haven't had that. We've had the drive-by parades, which aren't the same, handing out hand sanitizer, can't hand out candy. I think that we should put at least this go around, put that in towards it and just make it really good. And for our town, it's just, of all years, this year would be the year to do it. It's community, it's family, it's, you know, that's my thought on it. So thank you.
Councillor Wayne, and I'll reserve my comments to the end, okay?
I guess my thoughts would be to hold off on this right now. If the will is to do looking at a float, is a float going to cost 5,000 or is it going to cost 10,000? Do we have enough money to cover over and above the 5,000? Where are we at? I kind of want to know, is it worth putting the 5,000 in and knowing that we got to put in another 3, 4, 5,000 into it? Does that make sense? So I guess I kind of want to see what a ballpark would be for a number before I commit to that.
Councillor Len, if you allow me, I can answer that question. So in the budget that was just voted on for the interim, there was a line for $5,000 for a float for the town.
We took it out.
And we took that out. So someone did some homework to come up with a number for that by the sounds of it, and maybe I'll let CAO Patty answer that.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. We, again, I really like the Andrew model. And we also looked at decking out a trailer of some sorts with, again, it's very hard to depict the meteorite. So, you know, we would engage some more creative people than myself to come up with some options, but we firmly believe for 5,000, we can do something nice. And to answer your question, Councillor Jacobs, we do budget for parade candy with the councillor budget every year.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns about this motion? I just wanted to add my 2 cents. In a non-COVID year, many times we've gone to parade floats. I've gone to parade floats and parades with Councillor Pat many times. Lots of times we went to the St. Albert parade. They're very good hosts. And heard many comments, especially when we had our own truck in those parades, hearing people say, "Oh yeah, Bruderheim, oh yeah, Bruderheim." When we don't have a float, we ride in one of the fancy antique cars that St. Albert is so graciously allowing us, and then there's a little magnetic sign that goes on the door that says Town of Bruderheim and has our name on there. And I think that has been mentioned earlier, the opportunity to promote our town for many years to come with a tastefully done float. I'm thinking back to the days when, remember that parade when we had a torrential downpour and we had council and staff on that float. And one of the young fellows took the tub in the middle of the street and bathed himself in it with the pouring rain. Those are great times that our council had, not only to promote our town, but to have team building. And I think that there's a lot of value in a tastefully done float that can last for a good number of years to help promote our community. And like I've done in years past, where there was opportunity to go to parades during the summer, I make an effort to do that. And I would be willing to do that again. I don't know if that float would be ready for this year's parade season, if there is a parade season, but that's my 2 cents worth. And Councillor Wayne, you wanted to interject?
Just a question for the mayor's supper, as it's one of the options here. There is a cost for that, right, for people to attend?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, just yeah, absolutely. And then council passed that we raised the ticket price to cover costs.
So the mayor's supper should technically be covered by ticket cost.
The only thing won't cover is a guest speaker. We'd have to get a volunteer guest speaker. And typically a guest speaker is about $5,000. minimum,
So the ticket prices would cover
the meal.
meals and that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, CEO Patty, but in the past, we've also been able to get speakers at a very handy Bruderheim type of price, right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So, but yeah, I believe that that was in the budget. The mayor's supper was in the budget, right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we decreased the budget to account for, well, didn't decrease. We increased the revenue by, so they match, they're zeroed out now, so that we'll increase the ticket prices to cover the meal costs. And we'll be creative about looking for a guest speaker.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns with the motion on the parade float? Given opportunity, please feel free to speak up, Deputy Mayor.
I agree with all of what you're saying about the float being long-term and everything else. My only concern is, are we going to use it? And I just know how many times it went out, whether we were doing the parade standby or whatever over the last few years. It just got less and less because we're all busy. And the weekends that are the parades are all long weekends. So if you're going to parade, if you're going to vote for it, then you better pick some long weekends. You're not going out to the lake and whatever, and you better go out, do the job. Otherwise, it's sitting in a garage, not doing us any good. That's my only concern.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dana.
I'm on the Egg Society, so I have no choice but to work long weekends now.
That's a bonus. You get to spend time with great people from Bruderheim. Thank you for your dedication. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Councillor Wayne.
Is this some, like a parade float, is this something that we could do a joint effort with another organization in town? Ag Society, Minor Sports, something to do to? Is that a possibility?
So, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Lecco, once that was cut from the budget, I didn't really further pursue that. So if council approves this tonight, then we'll start pursuing those options as well.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns with the motion? Okay, haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? We show one opposed, so the motion is carried. Thank you very much. 8.3 bylaw 02-2022, a bylaw to amend the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw. So we're looking for a motion for second, and then after that, a third reading if we so choose. And I just have to say that that was very good, friendly, polite debate on the parade float. Thank you, guys. So I'll let Sherry speak. I'm sorry.
You're still friendly.
Yeah, that was friendly.
I'd like to change the motions just a bit based on the planner's report that you received from Jane. So there'll be three motions this evening. The first one would be to do give a second reading to the proposed bylaw 02-22, a bylaw to amend the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw 33/2015 as amended. That would be one motion. And the second one would be the third reading. And then we also need a motion to approve the municipal servicing report and outline plan as revised February 2022.
Okay, and you have those motions?
I have them written
already
here if
read
somebody
out?
wants to.
Okay, so then I'll be looking for, is there any other preamble that we need?
No, because you already had it in the planner's report.
Great. So we're looking for the first motion for the second reading. Would someone from council be willing to read that motion? Councillor Len. So just hold on. I think.
I'll read it for you,
Sherry.
Councillor Florida. That town council gives second reading to the proposed bylaw 02-2022 regarding a bylaw to amend the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw 33-2015 as amended. You just say.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Len. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Deputy Mayor.
So I do have a couple questions after thinking about what some of these folks said. I mean, I really didn't get a feel if they were for or against it. They just wanted to know that all the work was done. And I'm not sure if this is possible though. can our assessor give us an idea of value? Like, is it decreasing the value of the properties that are going to be there? And I know right across the street are going to be new properties, so that wouldn't affect, but the ones further into that subdivision, would it affect their assessment value at all? Is there any way of figuring that out?
Deputy Mayor through Mayor Hauk, until we actually get some development permits in and we actually start doing some work over there, it's gonna be pretty hard to figure out because we really don't know what we're putting in there yet.
So saying that, is there any other communities, rural our size? Now, and let's just word this question differently. So we already have some of those discretionary ones in our community.
Mhm.
Does he take those into consideration?
Mhm.
Is their assessment higher? Ask him this question: is the assessment higher or lower on those properties because there is business there?
Sorry, we can get that information for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Any other questions from council? I think we have to give a thank you to Jane for making herself available to help us out with this. And also a thank you to our administration and Sherry for preparing us. We're well prepared for the hearing and thank you very much for all your hard work. If there's no other comments, questions, or concerns, I'll call for a vote on the second reading. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So now we'd be looking for the motion for the third reading. Would someone from council, Deputy Mayor?
I was gonna do a third.
Yeah, now we're doing the third, yep. And the Deputy Mayor is making that motion. And I think Sherry's going to read it out.
I would like to make a motion that we wait for our third reading and get the assessment back and understand that one a little bit better before we do our final and third reading.
Discussion from council, Councillor Lent.
Well, I don't know if she understands what assessment means. Assessment is what's the value of the property and the lands at that time they come and assess. Every year they shift from one section of the town to the next section of the town. So there's no way the assessor could even answer that question because there's nothing there to assess. If that building's good, they're going to have to be built to a standard when it meets that community. So there's not going to be it's not like they're putting up shacks there. So the assessment, that is such a ridiculous question. We're slowing up the process because it's not going to change. The assessor is going to say the same things I'm saying to you. No, I can't do anything about it until the buildings are built and we have to know what the value of those buildings are.
And I appreciate
Thank you for that information, Councillor Len. Just hold on, Deputy Mayor. Does anyone else have any issues with what we're discussing before we go back to Deputy Mayor? Okay, Deputy Mayor.
So my thought is, and I understand that what you're saying, Len, and you're right. He can't assess what's there. What I'm asking for is the fact that we have other discretionary use within the community. Has it lowered the value of the homes around them? That's my question. Because if it's lowered the value of the homes around them, then it would do the same to this. Doesn't matter what they look like, right? That's my question.
That's an interesting question because we have discretionary uses in other parts of town. And I don't hear any complaints from folks that their property values are going down. In fact, I think it's usually the opposite of that. When you do have more services in town, it tends to elevate the worth of the property. So I would not be in favor of not going ahead with the third reading of this bylaw. Any other discussion?
I was just going to ask in general, in other municipalities, does it, like you said, does it lower the value of the homes surrounding? If it does, by how much is it normally? Is it a big difference? Is it? It's more for information, I think, but.
CAO Patty, I saw you nodding your head there earlier. Do you want to interject anything?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just again on assessment, I did look into some municipalities. It's hard to find one that's exactly the same size as us, but it depends what somebody's looking for. And remember, assessment's not market value. Those are two different numbers. So if somebody, I think Mr. Kennedy was saying that it will attract more investment, which the more development, the higher the assessment, right? Market value and assessment. So if people are worried about the value of their home selling, that would be a totally different topic. than assessed value, right? So just so council doesn't confuse the two. Yeah, and I don't think there's a crystal ball. Assessed value goes on that community, right? So a home here might not sell the same as you know, a home in Gibbons or Redwater. It would be really hard to compare apples to apples. It would be a difficult situation considering there's nothing built there. We're talking about bare land. And if it takes 5 years to develop or 20, that would change the assessed value. If Strathcona County upgraded 560, that would change the assessed value. There's a lot of things that go into assessment, not just what's directly beside you. And they go on what houses are selling for at the time. And so as we see, the house prices are raising in Bruderheim. Some of our recent sales we've seen have gone up since last year, the house values. So, right, that depends too. And yeah, I get the question. I get the concern. It's just, I fear that we couldn't give you a solid answer on that. It would be a difficult one to get because every community is different depending how close you are to the city, how close you are to the heartland, how close you are to highway, to rail. Like there's so many things that play into assessment, right? And again, that's not market value. So I think residents would be more concerned about their market value. And I would say, in my opinion, that the more development, the higher the market value in our community, right? That's just a very high level statement that, again, I think Mr. Kennedy referred to. It's hard to get investment when the amenities aren't here. So.
Thank you for that information. Is council prepared to make the motion for the third reading? Would someone from council be willing to make that motion?
Sure. What is it?
Councillor Wayne? Yep,
Can we
Sherry will
use it
provide that.
exactly as it states, or you?
Sorry, I'll read that again. The town council give third reading to proposed bylaw 022022, a bylaw to amend the town of Bruderheim land use bylaw 33-2015 as amended.
Thank you. And Councillor Wayne, that's the motion you're making.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So now we can debate the third reading motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Councillor Wayne.
So I guess just like anything else, it all depends what's in that for commercial use. So if it's a convenience store versus daycare or whatever, I guess that all plays a part as well, just to add to the conversation we had earlier. So
I'd just like to help council out with the process, especially because we have some new councillors. So this is one step in the process. There are other controls and means for council that will be coming towards us, and maybe a little bit of explanation of that for council might help to enlighten so that they're not afraid that, oh, tomorrow somebody's going to be building something that we don't know anything about.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think that was addressed. One of the residents had that concern, but yes, there's a whole development application process. And that would all have to be followed and notified to adjacent owners, and again, have the right to have a conversation. This is strictly changing the land use bylaw, right? Does not mean it's a green stamp to put whatever you want there. So.
As part of the process, they would have to put in a development permit and application, and then that goes through another level of approval, right?
Mr. Mayor, yes, but not to the degree of this, of course. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. Councillor Ashley?
So just clarification. So we're just changing the land use bylaw. So if they decide to build a specific kind of building, or that has to go through the town, correct? And then any businesses that they're thinking of putting in would also have to be approved. It's not going to be something out to lunch and we're blindsided, right?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Carter, I think a good example would be of our pharmacy building. The back where we have our clinic right now was supposed to be a laundromat. If you've ever been in there, you'll see all the connections. So again, it was built that way and designed that way, but it didn't end up that way. And so they had to put another development application when we put the clinic there. So anytime you use a use, they have to do a development application. So. And again, we use our planner to look at those plans, just make sure they fit in, and as well as our engineer, if there's some engineering component to it.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Ashley. Any other questions? I do have a comment. I was pleased to hear that the parking issue would be addressed with off-street parking. That I think that's a key component of this area. If there is any issues, parking is certainly going to be one of them. And so if there is a provision for off-street parking for these businesses, I think that will help alleviate some of the concerns. So any other comments, questions, or concerns with this motion? Haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote then. Anyone opposed to the motion for the third reading? And that motion's carried. Thank you very much. Now we need a third motion, and I didn't get a chance to write the whole.
The town council approved the municipal servicing report and outline plan as revised February 2022.
Would someone from council be willing to make that motion? Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, just as she said.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Just to clarify and to make sure that everyone's clear, this motion is to address
The outline plan.
the outline plan only. So everybody's clear on what we're thinking. Okay, I just wanted to double check. So any comments, questions, or concerns with the outline plan motion? Okay, hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? Okay, and that motion's carried. So we can move on to section 9.0. Thanks very much, Sherry. Council committee reports. Looking for a motion to receive the council committee reports as information. Thank you, Councillor Ashley.
That council receive the council committee reports as information.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the council committee reports? I have a question. So council committee reports, Sherry works diligently to get our packages together, and she sends out reminders every week to please get your council reports in. And then she struggles to get them into the packages in a timely fashion. And I'm just wondering, does everyone from council find value in the council committee reports? Is that something that I'm just kind of feeling that out there with council, if this is something that we should be continuing to do? Do you find value in it? Do you read those reports? Councillor Len and Councillor Wayne.
Well, in the previous years, many years back, okay, there's always been council committee reports, but mostly the report is done verbally when you're doing the other stuff, because sometimes you do something very interesting off the normal track. And if just because you attended a meeting, there's nothing to be brought to the floor from that meeting. I don't really see any sense of that being brought in to everybody. But if you have an issue, and that's what I always think, if there's an issue, if you meet with housing or the landfill or the co-op water, and if there's issues happening there and you went to the meeting, then that's the opportunity when we have those other sections to bring in your report. This is what I attended. Now, I'd like to report on that. Otherwise, there's really no sense to it.
Thank you for that feedback, Councillor Len. Councillor Wayne.
I think it's still important that we do it for a couple of reasons. That it's a transparency. People know that we're doing something. I mean, we get our CAO once, and she puts in here her meetings that she attends. I think we should still do the same, whether they come to the council meeting or they just get submitted, just so that there's an awareness that we are doing as we're supposed to.
Thank you for that feedback, Councillor Wayne. Any other council feedback on council committee reports? Next meeting that Councillor George is here, I'll ask the same question again just to get his feedback. But for myself, I do have some feedback about it. I think that, like I mentioned, Director Sherry struggles to get the packages out in a timely fashion. Sometimes the reports are very late or come the next week. And I think if we're finding value in it, then we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and getting those reports in a timely fashion. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, for example, Councillor Len there's the example of the landfill commission. I know you attend the landfill commission meetings, and recently I found out that the landfill commission has approved working with the county of Lamont for taking the large rolls of plastic that the county of Lamont has a machine that farmers will be able to use so they can take their silage bags and stuff. And that's a really big item for our landfill. And I think those kinds of things, we need to make sure that we're highlighting those for our council so that we all know that, because in the past, when I was on the landfill commission, that was something that was debated very hotly and never was approved. And now that it is approved, those kind of things are worth hearing about at council, just so that we are all aware of what's going on at those meetings. It's okay. I can catch up with you later on those details, but what it helps me is to, when I read the council committee reports and I see that, you know, XYZ attended ABC, and maybe I got a question on what was at that meeting. Like, for example, Water Commission is going through lots of changes, if you will. And so there's some significant stuff that every once in a while I'm going to need to report over and above for our council so that they're aware of what's going on. And I think that if I forget and the council sees that, oh, you attended a Water Commission and I hear there's lots of things going on, this is an opportunity for council to, oh, hold on, Carl, what about the Water Commission? You went to it, but you didn't say anything special about it. I think that gives us our opportunity. So Councillor Dana and then Councillor Wayne.
Shouldn't this be something that's brought up in information, like an information or brought up in a closed meeting? I personally think that it is pointing directly at someone, and I do not think that is the proper thing to do. I think moving forward, something like this should be brought up in a closed meeting or a little less, you know, to put that person on the spot like that.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out the question to council in general. I wasn't pointing it at any one particular councillor. Councillor Wayne, you had your hand up?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's important we do it. Whether it comes to council, maybe we send it to each other, and each meeting you go to, put a highlight of it so you can, there is a question, you can bring it up. But I think it's important to still do it, and it doesn't have to necessarily go to Sherry for council meetings, but maybe we submit it to each other.
Councillor, or sorry, CAO Patty, in process on this question.
Mr. Mayor, administration was started talking about that. We don't want to add to your workloads. And we're thinking of even a phone or email, if that would be easier. And maybe we compile it much like the CAO report. I have the different divisions, and maybe we just make like a one pager. And then if there's discussion, like just, you can email or phone in if it's easier for you. And then less paper, less typing. Just a quick email. Here's where I went to. Here's some interesting points. Here's an attachment. I know Councillor Lee used to attach interesting documents from her meetings. And then we make it kind of like the CA report. We were thinking might be easier for council. It's up to you totally. We're just trying to make, we know you're busy, and we're just trying to make it easier. And a lot of you repeat. Like if you notice when we do professional development on the CA report, if 2 or 3 of us attended the same thing, we put all our names. So like a lot of you put town council meeting, we can put check, 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 right? And then we're not repeating, and we know that you do those things. You wouldn't have to report on those if it would make easier for you. We're just looking for ideas.
Thank you for that. I would suggest that maybe an email out to council with that, and we get the consensus back to go ahead and just change the format, but we're still keeping the essence of it. I think that's worthwhile. What does council think?
Either way, it's going to take us notifying them as to what's going on. So either way, I'm still good with doing something. So
thank you. And others on council? Okay, I think that we've provided some direction for administration, and we look forward to the recommendation. Thank you. So any further discussion on the council committee reports as information? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So looking for a mayor report motion. Deputy Mayor.
I make a motion that council receive the mayor's report as information.
Thank you very much for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? I just wanted to add some information. So the landfill commission is still in a, I wouldn't say struggle, but definitely debates with the Northeast Commission on the Water Commission and the costs for capital and the costs incurred into the rate for the water. And tomorrow evening, there's a special meeting for the Northeast Commission and the Water Commission. First, there'll be a supper meeting at Lily's, and then there'll be a meeting here afterwards at 7 p.m. And hopefully we're okay with opening up and closing up the building.
Mr. Mayor, was there any tech needed? Is anybody remoting in? Everybody will be in person?
Yep, it's all in
And no
person.
presentations or?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And so I just wanted to highlight that issue is still ongoing and not resolved for the Water Commission. And if we don't get past this impasse, it may go to arbitration. And it would probably, well, no, not probably, it would be binding arbitration, but we'll see if that can be avoided going forward. So I just wanted to provide that detail for council. And the other thing that I'm not sure if it's in the mayor report, we were to, Deputy Mayor and I were to be meeting with Mayor Amarjeet Sohi from Edmonton, and that date has been pushed to an alternate date due to unavailability of the mayor from Edmonton. So if there's no other comments, questions, or concerns with the mayor report, I'd be looking for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And hearing none, that motion is accepted. And now we need a motion for the CAO report as information. Councillor Wayne.
The town council received the CAO report as information.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the chief administrator officer report as information? My mouth is getting very dry. Okay. Hearing no comments, questions, or concerns with that motion, call for a vote. Anyone? Councillor Wayne has a question.
Coming up with the thaw coming, is there any concern of the runoff coming into behind West Woodlands there, rising up as high as it has in the past to even higher?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, we did buy a few extra pumps last year. And we're having regional conversation about what we all have. If we experience a extremely fast runoff, we definitely will have to be thinking about alternate plans, absolutely. But yeah, we regionally are talking about it already. We've seen some of the ponds filling up regionally in our neighbors already. So yeah, we're ready.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with the CAO report? Haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. There's no closed session, so we're moving on to correspondence and information items. Looking for a motion to accept the correspondence and information items as noted. It looks like there is none, so we don't need a motion. We're looking for a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Councillor Wayne.
I make a motion and invite everybody to go home and watch Team Canada play the women's gold at 9:10 p.m. tonight.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wayne.